Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, our monthly conversation with Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law with a couple of topics you're going to want to know more about. We also have features from Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and Kansas Grain Sorghum, and the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. In agriculture news, the Kansas State University Department of Ag Economics hosting 3 conferences to help farmers and ranchers plan for their transition of their farm to the next generation. The cost for the one-day Farm and Ranch Transition Conference, $60 for those who register by December 1st. The locations are December 13th at Colby, December 14th in Salina, and December 15th in Erie. Each conference will begin at 9 in the morning and get out by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Lunch and materials will be provided. Ashley Westerhold, the Director of Office of Farm and Ranch Transition at K-State, said in a 2012 study from Harvard found that 70% of family-owned businesses fail to transition to new owners. Now in Kansas, she says 84.6% of Kansas farms are family-owned, and she said that of the businesses that fail to transition successfully, 60% due to problems with communication and trust, 25% due to lack of preparation for the next generation. She notes a survey that by Farm Journal indicated 80% of farmers surveyed plan to transfer control of their operation to the next generation, but only 20% were confident in that succession plan would achieve the goal. You can find out more information about the conference at agtransitions.org. And a K-State official says a program that offers rebates to farmers could help close the gap for more Kansans installing safety kits on tractors and other equipment, more importantly, save lives. Tawny Lawson is state coordinator of the Roll Bars Rollover Protection Structure Rebate Program. An estimated 30,000 Kansas farms, or nearly a half, have at least one tractor without that available safety feature. Roll bars, rollover protection structures, often known as ROPS, are a piece of equipment that can be used to prevent serious injury or death if a tractor overturns. Now, according to the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, the tractor is the leading cause of death on the farm. She said the most frequent cause of tractor-related deaths are side and rear overturns. And Lynn Nagvard of Chapman was named champion of the 2023 World Livestock Auctioneer Championship qualifying event up in West Virginia at the end of last month. A total of 27 contestants competed for a top 10 placing, granting them a spot in the 2023 semifinals in Arcadia, Florida. He said he grew up in a livestock marketing business. The family owned the market for over 55 years. He's 49. He said he grew up in it and started auctioneering at a young age. Said his dad put him in when he was either 9 or 10. And the rest, of course, he said, is history. Stay with us, Dr. Roger McEowen, in a moment.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas corn, with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And I'm joined now by Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law. He is a ag and tax law specialist. Time for our monthly conversation. Dr. McEowen, great to see you.
Good to be with you, Ken.
Yet again, more things to talk about. One's a real head scratcher. Well, I guess they might both be. Let's first talk about, we know this time of the year, farmers, ranchers talking to their accountants, maybe doing some discussion about purchasing some things for depreciation for tax purposes. But there's a few things going out there that really may not be the total story, right?
Well, yeah, and in fact, we hope they're talking with their tax professionals because they get into trouble if they don't. And this is something that happens just about every fall. We start to see ads running in farm magazines by various retailers that are trying to sell products, and basically they're saying, you know, sign a contract with us by the end of 22, and that's going to be good enough for you to claim depreciation on whatever the product is they're buying that they're going to use in their farming operation, whether it's a building they're going to put up or it's farm machinery or equipment. And that may not always be true. And in fact, in many instances, it won't be true. And the real troubling thing about this is that there was a U.S. tax court decision in late September where in the opening paragraph, the court said that the farmers, they were from Indiana, read an ad in a farm magazine. And I saw that and I started to think immediately, oh, this thing's going to go south pretty fast. And indeed it did. That involved a charitable remainder annuity trust, and they totally messed it up based on the ad in the farm magazine. But the current one on this depreciation issue, you can't start to claim depreciation on an asset until the year in which the asset is placed in service. And what that means is it has to be ready and available for use in your trade or business of farming. So if I sign a contract, that's not enough. If I get building supplies that are dumped in my barnyard, that's not enough. That's not ready and available for use in my business. If I'm buying equipment, you know, has it even been built yet? We've seen those situations where you sign the contract and because of supply chain issues, it's not even built by the end of 2022, let alone delivered, service delivered and ready to roll. Now you don't have to use it in 2022. It just has to be ready and available for use. And that's the test. And farmers need to be aware of that.
So again, the bottom line is, if you're trying to look for some depreciation, you have to have that piece of equipment or those materials ready to go right now.
By the end of 22. Yeah, if you're on calendar year cash basis, which most farmers are, it's got to be ready to go by the end of December. Now, it doesn't mean that you actually use it. It just has to be ready and available for use in your trade or business. That's the key to this.
Okay. We're talking with Dr. Roger McEowen, the Washburn School of Law. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about kind of a head scratcher. We'll do that in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
And our guest is Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law. It's our monthly conversation with him and kind of ag in the courtroom, if you will, or anything dealing in the legal system in agriculture. And uh, I got to tell you, Dr. McEowen, this one is, I guess, a head scratcher. You got to be kidding me, maybe.
Yeah.
A rural attorney in practicing in a rural area. Basically, it goes back to that no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is a disciplinary case against a rural attorney. And let me set this up a little bit because it's difficult for me to swallow. We want attorneys to do this, but what the court ends up saying is there are rules, technical rules that attorneys are bound by in terms of their practice. And he was deemed to have violated two rules. And what it did, well, you had an older attorney. He's in his early 70s. And he had a friend, this fellow in the small town whose family had abandoned him. Uh, Trusted this attorney, and they struck up a friendship. And the attorney would take him out to breakfast occasionally, make sure everything was okay at his place. He had several small little properties around town. And again, this is a rural town, so he had farm equipment and all kinds of basically dilapidated junk is what it was. And the attorney and his wife would invite this friend over to their house at holidays, and they'd feed him and made sure that he was taken care of, take him to doctor appointments, those types of things. And the friend realized that his health was fading, and his family had abandoned him. And so he went to his attorney and friend and said, "I want you to draft a will and leave the properties that I have, my stuff when I'm gone. Leave it to your son for me." And so the attorney did that. And during life, by the way, when his friend needed money, he would buy some of this old equipment from him, and then he'd sell it, but and get rid of it. He usually sold it at a loss, but he'd pay whatever his friend was asking for the price. He didn't dicker with him on the price. They never wrote things down in an agreement. It's just, okay, I want 10,000 for this or 5,000 for this, and he'd say, okay, I'll pay that. And that's what the guy lived off of when he needed money. He dies, and the attorney had drafted the will, and the attorney paid for his funeral, paid for a memorial for the guy, handled all of that, and then paid $20,000 to clean up the junk off of his property. And Ken, you probably know that anytime you have a rural property that's got junk that needs to be cleaned, that's no small project. That's a lot of work to get that taken care of. Well, he did all of this. Bottom line, after payment of debts, taxes, those types of things, upon death, there was less than $6,000 worth of property that ultimately passed to the attorney's son. Then the family comes in, files a grievance action with the grievance board, the disciplinary board for attorneys in Iowa. This is an Iowa case. And they recommended that the lawyer be publicly reprimanded. Now, that's on the low end of discipline. On the high end is disbarment. So public reprimands on the low end. But I look at this and I'm thinking, this guy doesn't need a public reprimand. He deserves a public commendation, pin a medal on him. For being nice and helping this guy. He didn't take advantage of it. We're not talking about a multi-million-dollar property. We're talking about things the guy did that probably extended his friend's life. But it gets to the Iowa Supreme Court, and they upheld the Grievance Commission's recommendation of a public reprimand. They said he violated two rules, and one was you needed to have these purchase agreements of the junk that the guy had. You needed to have those in writing and advise him that he needed to seek other counsel. Well, he didn't do that. And then they said you shouldn't have drafted a will that left property to your son. So were there violations? Yeah. Does the formalistic application of the rule fit in this situation? I would argue no, it does not. But a tough case. And I think it really speaks to us. And I'll talk about this case. I'll give this to my law students in the spring semester, and we'll talk about this. I want to have some discussion about how you go about a rural practice. There are rules that are made that often the makers of the rules aren't thinking about how this would apply in a rural context where we often do things differently and we have more close-knit contacts with our clients. It's not like the practice in Kansas City or in a big city like that, where you
Right.
just you never develop those relationships. But we do in Norton, Kansas, or in Leota, Kansas,
Right.
those types of situations, and it's just different. I wish the rule wouldn't have been applied this way, but it did.
Yeah, it's one of those situations that if folks want to learn more about this and about the depreciation we talked about earlier, how's the best way to get a hold of all these type of things that you write about?
Yeah, on my blog, and that can be accessed through my website, which is washburnlaw.edu/Walter, WALTR. And you can find the blog down the left-hand side on the homepage.
All right, Dr. McEowen, always appreciate your visits. We'll talk with you next month.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
How is the soybean checkoff bringing you value? Let's talk about it. As soybean growers have sold their grain from this year's harvest, many have likely taken note of the funds collected by the soybean checkoff. Those dollars are hard at work. The Soybean Promotion, Research, and Consumer Information Act in the 1990s set up a mandatory national checkoff that today boasts a $12.34 return for each dollar invested. Upward trending national production, forecast at 4.38 billion bushels in 2022, coupled with strong prices nationwide averaged at $13.30 in 2021, are indicators of the checkoff's success. Soybeans are the ultimate feed, food, fuel, and fiber crop. Soybean research to make a better bean and marketing efforts to capitalize on the best soybean qualities create value for those who grow them. Soybean meal provides approximately 2/3 of the value of a bushel of soybeans. Globally, soybean meal accounts for 76.5% of protein meal consumption. Animal agriculture consumers, especially poultry and swine, thrive on the quality protein content in soybeans. In the fuel space, feedstocks like soybean oil are poised to meet growing demand for biomass-based diesel. Visit the MarketView database from the United Soybean Board to explore interactive data on all aspects of the soybean industry. This tool supplies visual data reports in its dashboard feature and detailed analyses on various topics within the Insight feature. That resource is available on the United Soybean Board website under the Tools and Resources tab.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
As most of you know, the majority of the state continues to be under drought conditions this fall, including a significant portion of western and southern Kansas, which is in exceptional drought. As a result, many farmers have struggled to keep their crops alive amid the scarce water supply. The Kansas Department of Agriculture's Division of Water Resources encourages water right owners to be alert to their water use for 2022 and consider applying for a multi-year flex account, or MIFA, if they believe they may exceed their annual water use allocation for this year. A MIFA is a tool that has been available to water users since 2012. Rather than operating on an annual basis with the quantity of water defined by the water right, a MIFA temporarily replaces the water right with a 5-year quantity to be used as needed in response to growing season conditions. To sign up for a MIFA that will include the 2022 pumping season, water right owners should contact their regional KDA water field office before the end of the year. An application must be filed by December 31st to be able to include 2022 as the first year of your 5-year term. Many water users find the MIFA to be a good addition to their water management plan because it provides flexibility by allowing the water right holder to exceed their annual authorized quantity in any year while restricting total pumping over the 5-year period. For more information about the benefits of a multi-year flex account and how to apply, go to www.agriculture.ks.gov/MIFA or call your regional water field office or the main KDA DWR office at 785-564-6640.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Did you know Kansas farmers grow the largest sorghum crop in the United States? Sorghum is a sustainable and profitable crop for Kansas farmers. It is drought tolerant and thrives off natural resources. And the sorghum stubble saves moisture and provides farmers' livestock with valuable feedstuff while also creating habitat and food that attracts wild game to your farm. Sorghum is growing in popularity as an exciting gluten-free and non-GMO ingredient in a variety of consumer and pet food applications. Sorghum is also an essential component in ethanol biofuel production. Kansas Grain Sorghum Producers Association is the voice for Kansas sorghum farmers and a partner for change with conservation organizations. We defend the Ogallala Aquifer, support sound policy, and educate producers on proper management. Working together, the Kansas Grain Sorghum Organization delivers effective advocacy, research, education, and promotion to help build producer value. Our family farmers work hard to supply the needs of customers locally and around the world. From Topeka to Washington and Asia to California, Kansas farmers invest in a better future by working to expand both exports and domestic market development thanks to the sorghum checkoff. Join us to ensure grain sorghum continues to exist as a viable crop in the future. Go to kansasgrainsorghum.org for more information and check out our podcast for the latest industry news. Kansas Sorghum. Growers working together.
The Kansas Livestock Association currently is accepting applications for the 2023 Young Stockmen's Academy class. This will be the 17th class since the program began in 2006. Each year, YSA consists of 20 young producers participating in 4 seminars. During the first session, which is held in Topeka in February, attendees are exposed to the legislative process, advocacy training, and services provided by KLA. They have the chance to meet and interact with staff and volunteer leaders. YSA members head to the Kansas City area in May to learn more about the agribusiness and retail beef industries during the second tour of the year. The third installment takes the group to central and western Kansas in September, where they spend 3 days touring beef and dairy operations to gain a better understanding of the various segments of each industry. Attending the KLA convention is the final session for the class each year. YSA participants spend 2 days taking part in the policymaking process by participating in committee and council meetings where members discuss issues affecting their business interest. Applications for the 2023 class can be found by going to KLA.org and clicking on programs. The deadline to apply is December 16th.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Good morning, this is Jake McCall with Pinion Ag. This week has seen loads of information dumped into the market, along with exciting election news. Top of mind for the week has been the latest USDA supply and demand report, as well as the most recent data on inflation. The USDA slightly increased corn and soybean yields to 172.3 and 50.2 bushels respectively. No changes were made to export expectations, but domestic use was raised to account for higher production. Corn is also benefiting from a solid ethanol report, with production raised week on week, and stocks continuing to decline from summer peak. The dollar has also been giving commodities some relief coming off its highs from the end of last week, allowing the U.S. to be more competitive on the global market space. On the livestock side, both feeder and fat cattle have seen some consolidation over the past several days, while cash cattle prices continue to stay elevated, well over last year, ranging from the upper 140s in the south to the mid-50s in Nebraska and Iowa. Crude oil is having trouble sustaining a move over $90 with recession worries around the world, and is closely following the news in China as they see more lockdowns this week amid rising COVID cases. If you have any questions, feel free to call us at 888-452-8751. I'm Jake McCall with Pinion Ag, and I hope you have a great and productive day.
Well, that's our show this week. Be social with us at KansasAgReport.net or our social media channels. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.